I've done Bible studies and I have gone over this particular book in the Bible several times. I have. And, every time I go over it, God keeps revealing mysteries unto me time and time again. So today we're going to take a look at a very familiar book, one that we have learned from our childhood on up to the day, and it still fascinates us, and we still have discussions about this book only because it's so wonderful. We're going to take a look at Jonah. Jonah, we're going to start at the first chapter in the first verse. You don't have to stand because I'm going to go all the way down to the 16th verse because we ain't going to even get to the fish. We ain't going to even get to the great fish. It is so much that is included in this word right here in the beginning, from the call, the response, and the resolution. So if you want to write down a title of this sermon, you might want to call it When God Calls. When God Calls. We're going to start right there at the beginning. It starts off Jonah 1:1. It says, "Now the word of the Lord came unto Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and cry against it, for their wickedness has come up before me." Now, before we can understand the reaction of Jonah, we must first recognize or understand what God called him to do and the people that he called him to go to and the place that he called him to go. We must understand that first. So let me give you a brief history of Nineveh. Nineveh is what we would call modern day Iraq, and back then it was the capital of the Assyrian kingdom. Now, the Assyrians are the enemy of Israel and are known to be hateful, ruthless idol worshipers. Now, this is where God called Jonah to go. Now, there are two reasons why Jonah responded the way that he responded. The first one is fear. We're talking about the call now. The first one is fear of not knowing what would happen if you walk up into the capital of your enemy and tell them that a God they do not serve, that he was going to destroy them. Let's be real for a minute. Can I be real with you? Just let me be real with you for a minute. If you came to me and told me to go to someone that I know do not like me, nor do not like my family, and threaten them, matter of fact, they just got in an argument with Buki last week, and you want me to go to their house and let them know that, look, you gonna get destroyed? The first thing that will come to my mind is that you crazy. You have lost your ever-loving mind if you think that I'm going to walk up into my enemy's camp by myself too and tell them or threaten them on their own territory. That just don't happen in these days. It just don't happen. But fear of not knowing what will happen when he goes to his enemies, that's a reason Jonah responded the way he responded. And see, and remember, I've preached on fear before. Y'all heard me preach on fear. Fear of the unknown keeps us from moving forward. Fear, it was holds us back. Fear, it was hampers us from doing what God would have us to do. It's fear. Fear comes up with every excuse in the book for you not to do something, and you don't even focus on the one reason why you should do it. That's fear. It is the function of fear to make you run away from every challenge that comes your way. And I know I keep saying it over and over again, but if you live your life in fear, you're going to mess up and miss out on a lot of things that God is trying to accomplish in your life. Now, on that behalf, please do not get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. There are certain situations that you get into that a little voice inside of you saying, you ought not go there. You ought not get into that. See, that's that spirit speaking within you. And you are rightful to be fearful in that situation, because God is speaking through you about some things that's going on in your life. Now, you know God calls, but it's the human factor of fear that would drive us in the opposite direction. Now, this second point of the call might get under somebody's skin, but it's the truth. Now, these are his enemies we are talking about. These are the people that seek to destroy him and destroy Israel. So why in the world would I want God to have mercy on them? He knows about God's mercy. He knows that if he walk up in there and tell them what thus says the Lord, they're going to do something. God going to forgive them. They're my enemies. I want to see them destroyed. Don't look at me like I'm crazy. Don't look at me like I'm funny. Because you can put yourself in Jonah's shoes if you was really honest with yourself. Have you ever been in a situation where people keep stabbing you in the back over and over again? You hear the talk, and they constantly at you. And the first thing that comes to your human mind is, God, why don't you do something about it and get this monkey off my back? Not only that, you keep reading in the papers, you see it in books and magazines. You got billionaires, multi-millionaires. You got people out there doing bad things and still prospering, but you out here on the battlefield trying your best. You come to church, you pay your tithes, you help out folks that need to be helped, but why does it seem like the ones that's doing evil is still prospering and I'm stuck in a gutter somewhere? God, why don't you do something about it? Bring them down a little bit. They're not serving you, but yet you see them prospering on every end and on every shore, and you are still stuck where you are. He wanted to see his enemies destroyed. I'm not going to go there. Number one, I don't know what's going to happen to me when I get there. And number two, they're my enemies. Take them out. Appreciate you telling me, Lord. Take them out. What God told Jonah shocked him. It was shocking. You could tell me to go around the block and talk to my cousins and my friends and my auntie and them and tell them what thus said, Lord, but my enemies? See, that human pride, sometimes we just got to shed, because it will keep us from moving forward in what God would have us to do, the call. And this is what brings me to Jonah's response. That starts at Jonah 1:3, and it says, but Jonah rose up and fled unto Tarshish from the presence of the Lord, and went down to Joppa. He found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid his fares. That's a whole nother sermon. Lord have mercy. So he paid his fares thereof and went down into it to go with them unto Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. Jonah proceeded down the Joppa, found a ship, found a plane, said, where you going? How far is that away from here? Cool, that's where I want to go. As far away from here as I can get. Not only from God's presence, but away from what God would have me to do. So he boards this ship, cruising on down. And we must understand something. He thinks he can get away from God. But in those days, the Spirit of the Lord dwelleth in the Ark of the Covenant. And the Ark was there with Israel. And just so happened, Jonah lives around Israel. So he reckoned in his mind, as far away as I can get from the Ark, I can't hear him. I'm sorry. That's not how it works. I hate to tell you this, but God has got good service. I don't care, you might have Verizon or AT&T, but I guarantee you, you can't beat the service of the Rock of Ages. His battery never dies. He never loses signal. He's always got you on his GPS tracking device. You can try your best to get away from him, but you cannot. God has already declared in his word in Jeremiah, he says, can a man hide himself in secret places so that I cannot see him, declareth the Lord? Do I not feel heaven and earth, declare the Lord? That's in Jeremiah 23 and 24. But let's look and see the situation. Now, Nineveh is 500 miles away this direction. Tarshish is 2,500 miles away from Israel in that direction. So he's trying to get 2,500 miles away from the presence, but over 3,000 miles away from where God would have him to be. Now you may ask me, how does this relate to me, preacher man? Come on now, be real with yourself. Have God ever told you to do something, and instead of doing what God told you to do, you went in a total opposite direction? As a matter of fact, you might just completely ignored what God said. It's nothing new. Can't you see yourself in Jonah's shoes? You know, I remember when I was an over-the-road driver, and I was down in Houston, Texas. And there was a billboard of a young man running for, I think, a judicial position down there. And something told me, say, now, get that number, give him a call, and encourage him. It's just me and the Lord in my truck, so I guess I was arguing with him. And I said, okay, why would I call this man? He don't know me from a hill of beans, and I don't know him either. Why would I call him? It ain't my job. Heck, they might think I'm some kind of terrorist and try to come pick me up. I ain't going to call this total stranger. But you know, from that point on, it pained me within, from there to the Louisiana border. It pained me from within because something said encourage him. And then it started bringing into my remembrance the times when a total stranger came up to me and said, you know what? Everything is going to be all right. People I've never seen before, people that never seen me before come up and say, you know what? God said he's going to make a way for you. Be strong in the Lord. This happened to me in McDonald's, Walmart, walking down the street. And I started thinking about the times when people that did not know me came to me and encouraged me. Then I wonder, where would I be if it wasn't for that blind encouragement of faith that they gave me in that time? And God says, see, I had a job for you to do. Now, I don't know if he won, if he lost. I have no clue what the race was about. But that blind encouragement could have took him to another level. But I would never know because I went the opposite direction of what God would have me to go. But Jonah, he seek to get away, far away from his call as possible. But can I hit you with a little news there, people? We all are called to do something to uplift the kingdom. You see, before Jesus ascended into heaven, he gave this great commission. He says, go to the hedgeways and highways and compel them to come. Now, that's not just for the preacher, the deacon, or the mother. That's for everybody that calls themselves children of God. So my question for you is, have you accepted that part of the call? Have you accepted that now? Now, another thing, don't get this twisted. Now, we come here to church to edify God and to edify each other. What are you talking about? We come here to give God glory, to give him praise, to give him honor, and to worship him, and to tell each other, keep on going on and don't get weary on your journey. That is why we come here in this building, but your call is outside these four walls. I don't think anybody hear me. Your call is outside of these walls. Your mission is outside of these walls. We come here to encourage each other and tell God thank you, but your job is outside of these walls. You compel people out there to come in here to receive a word. People don't understand that, yes, you have a call on your life. Now, how you do it, that's what you have to figure out. But you have that call on your life to do that, to go out there to bring them in here. It's all right to be an usher at the door. It's all right to sing in the choir. It's all right to stand here and give a word. But how can they hear out there if we are all in here sitting on our behinds doing nothing for them out there that is lost? The church has lost its way. That ain't even in my sermon, but the church has lost its way. We get all comfortable in our seats, get all dressed up, come and sit down, listen to a word, listen to the choir sing beautifully, get our praise on. But what are you doing for the people that are lost and need to hear a word of salvation? That is our call. Have you accepted that call, or have you just boarded your ship to Tarshish? My Lord. Now we come to the resolution. We come to the resolution. And this might come as a bit of a surprise to you. Now, first of all, a resolution in definition is giving of an action to solve a problem, a dispute, or a controversial, cantankerous situation, matter. Now let me ask you a question. Was Jonah supposed to get on the ship in the first place? Come on, preacher man. You just got through fussing at us about not accepting God's call, about doing the opposite of what he called you to do, and not liking your enemies, wanting to see them struck down. But was he supposed to be on the ship in the first place? Let me hit you with something. God knows what you gonna do. He knows where you going. He knows how you think. But by the way, even in your mess up, God can still get the glory out of your life. Was he supposed to be on the ship in the first place? Let me flip it. Jonah 1 and 4, I'm going to read a little bit. But the Lord sent out a great wind unto the sea, and there was a mighty tempest in the sea, so that the ship was like to be broken. That's a whole nother sermon. Then the mariners were afraid and cried, every man unto his God, and cast forth the wares that were in the ship into the sea, to lighten it for them. But Jonah was gone down inside of the ship, and he lay and was fast asleep. So the shipmaster came to him and said unto him, what meanest thou, O sleeper? Arise, call unto your God, if so be that God will think upon us, that we perish not. Stop right there. Woo, Jesus. Now, let's get this. The characteristics of this storm is not usual. We are talking about men of the sea, sailors, fishermen, people who understands the sea, who's been out on the sea. But in this particular instance, this storm made them afraid. This storm frightened them. This is not a usual storm. Something's going on, and we need to figure it out. This is not a usual storm. It frightened them. And by the way, those sailors were unbelievers. Watch this. This is where God begins to get his glory out of Jonah's mess. So we read in the scripture that the sailors were crying out to their own God. They were throwing stuff off the ship to make it lighter. And then the shipmaster realized there's another one asleep in the bottom of the ship. I can go to a whole new, I'm sorry, y'all, that's a whole new thing. But he found him asleep in the bottom of the ship. Now, I don't know if Jonah reckoned within himself that, you know what, I'm doing the right thing, so I'm just going to lay down and get me some rest. But at some point, he had peace and did not know what God was doing around him. And the shipmaster came down and told him, wake up. Pray to your God. Ask your God that he may look upon us. For we are in trouble. Let me stop right there. A lot of times, we can be asleep in our situation and comfortable. And God will send somebody by to wake you up. It does not matter who he uses. He can use a believer. He can use a non-believer. But somebody might just come by your door and say, hey, you are in trouble. You're in trouble. You're sleeping on the job. You're in trouble. He will send somebody your way to let you know that there's a storm going on around you. In the midst of this storm, he goes down and tells them, wake up, pray to your God. And if you see between the 7th and the 11th verse, the sailors and the shipmaster kept asking him question after question after question. Where you from? What's your name? Who your mama name? Who your God? What you doing down here? How'd you get on this ship? They started asking him questions over and over, just drilling him. Because he's the only one that's having peace. And this ship is about to break. He's the only one got peace. So who you serving? They want to know. They want to know. We get to Jonah's response, his resolution in this situation. In the 12th verse, it says, and he said unto them, take me up, cast me forth into the sea. So shall the sea be calm unto you, for I know that it's for my sake this great tempest is upon you. Nevertheless, the men rowed harder and harder trying to get to the shore. But they could not, for the sea wroth and was tempestuous against them. The sailors tried everything they could to get this boat and land to get out of the storm without success. Now the sailors / unbelievers were about to surrender themselves unto the Lord. Now listen to this. They are trying their best to get this boat to shore. Jonah has already told them, in order for you to calm this storm, you got to let me go. You got to cast me off this ship. But see, nobody wants to be responsible for the death of another person, so they tried harder and harder and harder to get themselves to land without success. The storm is raging. Jonah sitting there going, see, y'all can try all y'all want to, but see, you ain't gonna never get there. I promise you ain't gonna never get there. But see, now you see them with this decision to cast Jonah over. In the 15th verse, it says, so they took up Jonah and cast him forth into the sea, and the sea ceased from her raging. Then the man feared the Lord exceedingly and offered a sacrifice unto the Lord and made vows. This is why I say Jonah being on the ship was no accident. For these non-believers recognized the God that he served, and in the midst of this storm with Jonah, saw how God reacted when Jonah was cast from the ship. And in this instant, God used Jonah to show them who he was. Can I tell you this? When you are answering your call, it means that there must be a sacrifice of yourself. Whether it be of you, of your pride, of your selfishness, of how you act, there has to be some type of sacrifice of yourself. Now notice it was Jonah who recognized that he was keeping these people in danger by staying with them. He must sacrifice himself in order for them to live. Regardless of how you see it, a sacrifice must be made. You know, I remember a story of a little boy sat down with his granddaddy one day, and he was noticing some things about his granddaddy. He said, "Granddaddy, you walk with kind of a limp. What's wrong with your leg?" He said, "Well, son, I was in a war. And see, I got shot in the leg over there fighting across seas, so that's why I walk with that limp." He said, "Oh, okay." Then a little boy asked his granddad, said, "Granddaddy, that long scar on your arm, where'd that come from?" He said, "Well, you know, there was a man that was after my family, and I was trying to protect my family, and he cut me on the arm. That's why I got that scar on my arm. You know, but it's all right. It's all right. It healed very nicely." And then he looked at his granddaddy again and said, "You know what, Granddaddy? Your back hurt all the time. Why your back hurt all the time, Granddaddy?" He said, "You know what, son? I worked hard all my life to provide for the people that I love and my family. That's why my back hurt. Trying to provide so you may have something in the future." And the little boy kind of reckoned with himself, like, "You know what, Granddaddy? You had it hard." His granddaddy looked back and he laughed. He like, yeah, I did have it hard. But you know what? If I did not go through what I went through, you would not be here today. Let me say it like this. A lot of times, the storms and the situation that you find yourself in is not for you, but it's for the people that's around you. You have those that are looking at you, trying to figure out, what are we going to do in this storm? And they focus on that person that was calm and say, what are you doing in this storm? See, everybody has got a storm to face in their life. But a lot of times the storm is not there to benefit you. But it's the people that are around you that are watching you, that are seeing the move that you make and how you react when you're in the middle of the storm. And they want to know, how do I have to get through to get out of this storm with you? Because I want to hold on to your coattail, to your God, to your beliefs to get through this storm. My pockets, I ain't got nothing in them. My relationship, it may be messed up. My home is in a turmoil. But in this storm, you seem like you calm. What's wrong with you? They're watching you. Yes. Yes, you get weary. But God got you. Yes, it gets hard and the road may seem rough, but God got you. Yes, it seems like that people are always stabbing you in the back and talking behind your back and always gossiping about you. And it seems like a burden is on your heart. But guess what? God has got you. Yes, the storm is raging, but he's your shelter. Yes, you in a desert, but he'll be in the desert with you. Yes, it seems like you in a valley, but he's a lily there. He's always there. And guess what? God has got you. He's got you. It may be hard, but God has got you. And he has called you up and has called you out. He said, go ye therefore, teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost. And I'll see you when you get on the other side of the Jordan River. I will meet you on the other shore, and I will declare, well done, good and faithful servant. Though you were faithful over few things, I call you up and make you ruler over many. Anybody know that God will always be with you? Even in your mess ups, God would always be with you. Trials may come your way. You may turn around and go the opposite way, but God is always with you. Have you accepted the call? Or better yet, when God calls, how do you respond to his call? How do you respond? See, there may be some here today that don't even know who God is. Don't even know how to respond to him. This time is your time to come. The doors of the church is open. The doors of the church is open. Maybe you stand. God is calling us up and he's calling us out. You may have been out there in the world doing all kind of things. But God said, I got you, and there's nothing that you have done that would make me turn my face from you, so come. I am waiting for you. I'm waiting for you. Maybe you know God. Maybe you have given God your life, but you have turned around and went the opposite way. But God say, I'm still here. I'm still waiting. Come back to me. He's waiting for you right now, right here at the altar. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. You, oh Lord, I just want